Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 9 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning. Time for, I hope, one is your favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning, and that is watch Sales Logic. Hanging out here with my pal, Mark Hunter. How you doing today, Mark?
I am doing great. And as we talked in the pre-show, we both got stuff going on today because every day is a sales day, right?
Absolutely. You are getting ready to MC a program. I'm getting ready to hop off to Miami, Florida. My attire, I just got off the tennis court because what do you do before you hop a flight to Miami? So I am going to hit the video and we are going to start. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is a Sales Logic. Mark, we got a power-packed show here this morning. We got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So I'm going to tell the folks how the show works, and then you tell us what is on deck for today. So basically, we start the show every week with a question from you, our listeners. That's right. You get to be a part of Sales Logic. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Tell us what you're thinking. And Mark, we have gotten a lot of energy coming through the question porthole lately. So we've got some good questions coming up. We have a hot topic. We recommend a book, and we finish up with a lightning round. So Mark, what are we talking about today?
Well, what we're talking about here today is how do you design a strong sales strategy? What is it? Why you need one? And how it works. So we're going to talk about sales strategy and whether or not you're an independent salesperson or part of a team. This is going to be a program for you. And hey, the question, you're right. We're getting tons of questions coming in. This one comes through, and I'm going to apologize if I get this name wrong. Hytham Rodwan. He asked, what's the strategic plan for a sales manager in a new market and a new country with different culture? Now, hold on, people, before you think, oh, well, this isn't going to apply to me. This applies. I've got several examples I've already thought through as to how this applies to anybody and everybody. So the question, strategic plan for a sales manager, new market, new country, different culture. It could apply to you right now. Meredith, jump in.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't know an example or a question where you need a strategic plan for sales more than this one applies. I mean, you're headed into a new country with a different culture. You need to have a strategy as to where you're going and where you're headed. So that leads to the first thing that you need to know and do, and that is, what's your vision? What's your goal? What do you ultimately want to accomplish? When you look out a year from now, what is it going to look like in order to get there? So that's where you really need to begin. And I would say with a different country and a different culture, maybe it's just something as simple as creating awareness, or even getting, making some contacts that you want to make. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew with something as daunting as this.
It's so true on that. And here's something else. You want your goal. You got to have your vision. Where are you going? But don't make assumptions. This is where so many organizations, so many salespeople get into trouble. The world is littered with companies that have tried to move into another country, and they take their same business processes and they fail. But the same thing happens even within the US. I do a lot of work with SaaS sales teams and organizations that sell to SaaS. And it's very interesting, but I happen to be in Plano, Texas this morning. And it's interesting, but the way you sell to a SaaS organization here in Plano, Texas is different than the way you sell to a SaaS organization in Palo Alto. Keep this in mind. Guard your assumptions. You can have the goal and the vision set, but guard your assumptions. You've got to understand the marketplace before you can race forward.
Yeah, and I think it's so important too to take a good, honest look at where you are. Now, you set your goal so you know where you want to go, you know what you want to accomplish, but take a look at where you are. What are your, what's your SWOT analysis, or what's your seeds, weeds, and needs? I mean, what's strong about, what are you bringing in there? Maybe you've got a great product. Maybe you've been smart and you've tapped into sales professionals that have some connections in the market. I mean, what's working for you? What are your weaknesses? Where are you really missing on a couple of things? Where are your greatest opportunities, and where are your biggest threats? And so once you understand where you want to go, you understand where you are, you can choose a couple of short-term strategic objectives to get you from where you are to where you need to go. In essence, if your weakness is that you have nobody who has any connections in the market or the country that you're trying to sell into, maybe that's a good short-term objective to start there, to start and say, we got to figure out who the influencers are, who the connectors are, and we need to make a connection there. So you want this long-term goal, but with a sales strategy, you've got to have some short-term objectives for a number of reasons. Number one is a plan is about progress. Number two is, if you're going to keep your team motivated, you got to have a lot of wins.
So much of what you just said there. And I want to go back to something that you said, seeds, needs, and weeds. You talk about that a lot. I'm going to add something to that. It's, are you going into a marketplace to convert or educate? And this is about understanding your marketplace. Are you going in to convert? Because your marketplace is already using a similar product and you have to convert them to yours. Or are you going in to educate the marketplace? That's a key difference. And that's going to help shape your strategy dramatically. But here's the other thing. You got to look at it this way. You're going into a new market. And again, this could be, you could be in New Jersey and you're going to start selling in Virginia. This applies to you just as it applies to somebody who's in the US looking to sell to Asia. You're going to go through 3 generational shifts. And I don't care who you are, you're going to go through 3 generational shifts. I was with a CRO this week, and we were talking about this very situation. The initial generation is you're just going in to kind of explore. You're going in and you're laying the groundwork. And then you think you know what's working. So then you begin applying it. That goes to generation 2. But it isn't until you get to the 3rd generation. So don't be surprised. You got your goals, you got your visions, but the process with which you go through is undoubtedly going to go through some iterations. And again, this comes back to one of the comments I made at the beginning. You've got to be careful not to carry assumptions over from marketplace to marketplace, because it's going to catch you. You have to make sure that you get verification of proof, and that's going to help you understand your seeds, needs, and weeds, and your conversion or your education.
Yeah, Mark, I think what you're talking about is so important too, because again, whether you're in Texas trying to sell into Oklahoma, or you're in one part of Texas trying to sell to another, or you're in Europe right now wanting to break into the Asian market, you have to determine what's your strategy. I mean, one of my favorite questions to ask CROs, are we going after organic growth, or are we going after acquisitions or mergers? Are we going to buy territory? Are we going to, acquire territory? Or are we looking to just grow off any kind of market share we have? Because those are going to determine very different types of strategies and very different types of revenue goals and very different types of budgets.
And along with that, go back to the opening video that we play every week. And we hone in on some words, relationships. How sales is a people business. It's still about creating you've got to create those relationships, because what you're going to find is, going into a new market, I want to find that lead customer. I want to find that lead customer that's going to begin opening doors for us. And that means deep-seated relationships are going to have to be built. But when I do that, then I can begin to nurture. Go back to seeds, needs, and weeds. I got to create those seeds. What is that built around? That's built around the needs. And it's so spot on here. Hey, we should probably begin shifting, because we're kind of talking about it in terms of the topic, which is, designing a strong sales strategy, what it is, why you need one, and how it works. So why don't you jump in first with some thoughts?
Yeah, I want to highlight the comment that that our friend Mark Bregman has made here, because it's such a good one. Even Fortune 500 companies can mess up moving into a new country market. Target tried moving into Canada and it was a disaster. And Mark, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I mean, why you thought it was a disaster. I tell you, I used to work in the financial services market, and I used to watch banks mess this up all the time. I watched banks in Canada buy banks in the US and mess it up. I would watch banks in California buy a bank on the East Coast. And the biggest step, in my opinion, they missed was not understanding the ideal target market. They were still selling a strategy that was focused on who they sold to in their market. And when you think about a sales strategy, I mean, you hear Mark Hunter and I talk about it all the time, and that is your ideal target. I mean, who you're selling to is going to determine the strategy you use to sell. So, I think that's a big one to start with.
Yes, the other Mark, bringing up Target's colossal failure in Canada. Walmart's done the same thing. They moved into several countries and literally they had to pull out. And it's interesting, but Walmart ultimately came to this strategy that many countries, the way they enter it is through an acquisition.
Yeah.
You acquire somebody locally, and think about banking. That's ultimately really how did the whole banking consolidation occur? Because of mergers. But even then, what happens is you go in with an operational thinking. This is where salespeople fall down. And I don't care if you're a sales team or an individual. This is the sales process I've used. This is the messaging I've used. This is the cadence I've used. This is who my ideal customer is. False. You've got to let the marketplace prove it. And it starts by not just having that ICP, but it starts even further upstream by understanding what is the outcome that you're going to help the customer achieve. You see, Target's failure in Canada was that they really failed to understand the Canadian customer and their loyalty to a few local Canadian retailers that they were very beholden to. And they were kind of turned off by this mass, oh, I'm supposed to get all excited about the red dot. Just didn't work.
Yeah, it's so true. I think another important piece of strategy is if you can have some type of local connection, you're going to be a lot better off. I've gone into a lot of markets where we didn't merge, we didn't acquire. We started what you call de novo, literally in a car, having somebody work out of the trunk of their car, starting whatever we were going to start there. But we would go in and we would find somebody who already had connections and reputation in the marketplace. Now, that's valuable for a number of reasons. I mean, your first thought is they can get in the door. Okay, that's valuable. They can get in the door. But more importantly, they know the community, they understand the culture, and they can help you avoid the landmines.
It's so true on that. In fact, I was with a company this week. I was speaking to them, and one of the things they're doing is they're moving into new areas of the country. And Florida, for instance, they're trying to go into Florida, but they only have 2 salespeople in Florida. And several people asked me, should we rapidly expand? I said, no, you got to let the marketplace take you there, because you got to learn the marketplace first. You start with 2 salespeople and you slowly build out from there. This is what I'm going to tell it. If you're a salesperson and you've got a good market here and you say, man, I need to kind of open up this market, you got to keep working this existing market and begin doing it. In fact, I was coaching a salesperson yesterday, enterprise salesperson. She's new to enterprise. She's got 50 target accounts that she's zeroed in on. But she says, Mark, I'm starving to death because it's going to take me a year, at least 18 months to open these up. I said, well, this is why you've got to keep working these other accounts, because you've got to put food on the table right now. Right. And as we kind of worked through and aligned her schedule, aligned how she allocates time blocking, she began to breathe a little bit of fresh air that she's going to consolidate her 50, focus on 10 to 15, and keep working her other accounts, developing, nurturing, getting business there. And then as these 10 to 15 begin to blossom, then she takes on another 5, another 5, another 5. In other words, you grow your way into your new market. I'm not a big fan of, who was it? Cortez when he came to the U.S. When he came to the New World and they burned the ships. I apologize. Remember that? Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
And because he burned his ships because he didn't want his crew to say, "We got to go back to the old world." They're in the New World. I'm not a big fan of that strategy unless you've got a tremendous amount of resources, deep pockets to be able to allow you to try and fail.
Yeah, I think something that's really important about a strategy is to set really clear milestones and/or goals. I mean, so often we can think to ourselves, I'm going to enter a new market, I'm going to enter a new country, I'm going to enter a new culture, and we'll be too aggressive. I mean, I always used to say that let's set the revenue goal that we want to hit in this particular market, and then we're going to cut it in half. Because the truth is, we're going to hit bumps in the road that we didn't realize. I mean, we're in new territory, new things, new issues are going to pop up. If we did more than the revenue goal, great. But if not, get really clear. The other thing is every 3 months, at least, you need to assess your plan. You really need to look at that plan and sit down as a group and say, what's getting us traction? I mean, what is working in this market? What do we understand? What have we learned? What just isn't working? What is throwing us off target? What's messing us up? And then what, if anything, do we need to be doing that we're not doing? I mean, don't be so cemented to that plan and your strategy that you're not constantly moving it around.
Wow. So much of what you said there is so powerful because, you got to be focused. You can't give up. You got to keep going forward. But at the same token, you got to be open and flexible. I'm going to go back to something else. The goal. You have a goal. You have a number you want to hit. Okay. That's a scoreboard. That's the scoreboard. That's the final result. That is derived by all of the activities. And again, this came up in this coaching call I had yesterday. This new person, enterprise. She came in. She thought, wow, within a year, she's going to have all this business. It's going to be great. And she's about 90 days into it. She's like dying. She's like, I'm going to starve to death. And I said, you got to set activity goals. These are activity goals.
So true.
It's the number of contacts you're having, the number of phone calls you're having, the number of meetings you're having. Set goals that allow you to ultimately get to the point where you hit that numeric goal, that sales number, whether it be units, product, sales, whatever it might be. But if you keep going into a new market, if you're focused only on that end number that you want to hit, I tell you what, you're going to have frustration. Set your mind on the activities. And this is going to sound weird. Set goals low enough that you can achieve. Why? Because it motivates you.
Yeah.
I see this. How many times have you seen this, right? People come into a new area, a company comes in, and they can't achieve success. And they get very frustrated. They really are achieving success, but they're not seeing it. So I kind of say, I got to set little low goals, achieve them, and it helps me feel better. I step up. And before I know it, I got the numbers on the scoreboard I'm looking for.
Yeah, the other thing is go ahead and look at who in the market is winning and why they're winning. What are they doing that you need to adopt and you need to do? I mean, a million years ago, when I was in financial services, I was brand new in the market, and I was opening up a brand new product and service. We had never sold it before. And so I had to get market share for it. And I looked out at all of my competitors, one of which at the time was Wachovia. It was back in the day when Wachovia was just a solid financial institution. And they had this strategy that they would sell 6 products or services to every single customer they had. The thought was if we sold 6, the customer would never leave us. And I looked around at all my other competitors, and every time I called on somebody who was a Wachovia customer, I couldn't move them. And the reason I couldn't move them is, one, Wachovia did a good job with their strategy. Number 2 is it was too problematic for the customer to move. Well, I learned from that, and I went back to my team and I said, instead of trying to acquire lots of customers, I want to take the strategy of acquiring new customer, and every new customer you get, go deep. So that our strategy became acquisition and depth rather than just acquisition. So look around your market and pay attention to what's working and put your own spin on that.
And that's so true. And let's stay with the whole financial services. Let's stay with banking, because 6 products, that's kind of the magic number.
Yeah.
When you get 6 products, there's an ecosystem, and it's hard to pull that customer away.
Mhm.
So I'm going into a new marketplace and see, so in that case, it's not like you're converting, you're educating. You now have to educate new customers. And what you want is, instead of having a breadth of customers, like you said, I'm going to have a depth of customers. And again, what I want to do, and I tell this to anybody, if you're going into a new marketplace or anything, I have to create loyal customers as rapidly as possible. So I'm going to focus on fewer, because fewer will become greater, because what happens is they will become advocates for you. And if you're moving into a new market, chances are you don't have enough sales resources. This was the comment as we were working on this Florida plan with this company that only had 2 salespeople. I said, you got to find those customers, develop those customers that will become advocates for you. And they will in turn open up additional doors for you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I love Mark Ketchum's comment here. Every country has a unique culture. Recognizing and creating a strategy that addresses the cultural differences is critical to ultimate success. Absolutely right, Mark. And it kind of goes with Skip's comment. I did a LinkedIn Live yesterday with Sherry Leviton, and we were talking about our LinkedIn learning courses. And I just did a LinkedIn learning course on inclusive selling. And whether you're selling in another country or whether you're selling in a, just in a different geographic location in the US, you need to be sensitive. I live in the Southeast, and I watch a lot of people come into this market, and they're aggressive and they're pushy, and they're doing what works in their area of the country. It doesn't necessarily work here. And you need to be, you really need to be sensitive to those kinds of things. So it's so important. And Spencer chimes in that you need to truly be curious about people. And I would agree with that. I love the fact that the question was about a different culture and a different country. But if you're a smart salesperson, you realize that every time you look at a new market, there's differences. And you can't just pick up the strategy that you had someplace else and lay it into that market.
Boy, years ago, I learned that when I was working the Oregon territory, and then I was transferred to Tennessee. Now, you live in the Southeast, so I go from Portland, Oregon to Knoxville, Tennessee. And that was a shift. But then I went from Knoxville, Tennessee to New York City.
Yeah.
Wow, that was but what it taught me is you have to stop, understand what's the marketplace made of. What's the marketplace made of? In fact, that should probably help us transition into the book. Great book.
Yeah.
Go ahead and share the title of the book.
Well, we've highlighted it before, but when I was thinking about today, I thought I don't know that there's a better book you can highlight when you're talking about sales strategy, and it's one that probably so many of our our readers have read, and that is, our listeners have read, and that is Blue Ocean Strategies. It's a great book talking about how you build an effective strategy that really helps you dominate the marketplace.
And I'll tell you what, if you've read the book, go back and read it again.
Yeah.
I think Blue Ocean Strategy is one of those books that you reread. To me, it's a book that I like to dig into every couple of years, because Blue Ocean Strategy is also, you got to acknowledge your competition, but don't focus on them.
Yeah.
Your whole objective is let your competitors be focused on you. You're not focused on them. Blue Ocean, find the new marketplace out there.
Yeah.
To me, it's a book that I think sales teams should read before you begin thinking about next year's sales plan.
Mark, it's so funny. You and I get so many books, and we read so many books. We order so many books, and I'm always taking books to donate them to the hospital and things like that once I finish reading them. But Blue Ocean Strategy is one I hold on to, because about every 16, 18 months, I'll reread it. It's that good a book. So anyway, we better hit that lightning round. I got a play to catch, and you got a show to MC. All right.
Okay. Top 10 ways to get your sales team focused. Go.
Top 10. Number 1, have a really clear goal.
Oh, I love that. And don't have too many goals. Sales teams are notorious. Oh, we got this. No, the objectives, keep them narrow, keep them aligned tightly with a singular goal.
Yeah. I would say that reward and recognize the behaviors that you want. Be really clear about what behavior you want from them and give them the cookie when they do the right behavior.
I love it. Focus on the team, not the problem. If all you do is focus on the problems, you're going to play whack-a-mole of problems. Focus on the team. When the team is right, the problems go away.
Coach and support one-on-one. Sit down and make sure that you understand every sales team member's, how they're going to go about achieving the goal, and look at what they're doing and give them your insight and your input.
Communicate, communicate, communicate.
I would say get the C-suite involved. When your team does the right stuff, pick up that phone, call the CEO, call the chairman and say, I need you to write a thank you note. I need you to stop by this person's office. I need you to make a phone call. Make sure that they know the right behaviors are being seen.
Realize that every person in the organization is essentially a quarterback, quarterbacking a team. Every person has a team. Leverage the other resources in your organization. Why don't you share one more? I'll share one more and we'll close it down.
I think one of the most important things you can do to keep your team focused is make sure that at least every quarter you assess your plan. You sit down, you talk together about what's working, what isn't, and get their ideas and their opinions about what they need to keep doing, what they need to change, and how they could progress. Make them a part of the process.
Focus on what's working for you. Don't obsess over what's not working for you. With that, hey, we need to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, hey, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
And remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We will see you all right here next week, 9 a.m. Eastern. You are amazing. I love our listeners. I love your engagement. So we'll have another hot topic. Please, if you have a question, go out to saleslogicpodcast.com. Otherwise, close a lot of deals this week. We'll see you right here at 9 a.m. Eastern next Saturday morning. Bye-bye.